So we're going to talk about factoring quadratics today. It's just one chunk of the 4.2 crazy lesson. So one chunk, you'll realize that this chunk is one of the easier parts of it. And we're just going to take anything that looks like x squared minus some number, plus some number x plus some constant equal to 0, and we're going to solve this. So again, anything that looks like x squared plus bx plus c equal to 0, we're going to solve using the same method. And this video might be a little bit soft because I don't have my microphone, but I'm kind of trying to yell, so hopefully that helps you hear. So let's go with example 1, okay? I'm going to take example 1, and I'm going to rewrite it as m squared minus m, so I've got the x squared and the bx, plus 0, because that term is missing, I know it's 0, equals 0. And then again, I'm looking for what multiplies to the last term and what adds to the middle term. This is a negative 1m. So I think of all the factors of 0 that will make negative 1. Well, I can multiply any number by 0 and still get 0. So let's multiply negative 1 times 0, and that will give me 0. So this is going to work for my two terms. So I go ahead and write it out as m minus 1 times m plus 0, and I can simplify that. So this is now m minus 1 times m. And again, each of these equations is set equal to 0. That's how we're going to solve them. So now I need to know what values of m will make this 0. Well, if m is 0, so if I have 0 minus 1 times 0, I get 0. 0 minus 0 is negative 1, times 0 is 0. So I know that one of my solutions is going to be 0. M equals 0. That's one of my solutions. Now if I try it again, m minus 1 times m equals 0. I need to know what makes this factor 0, this factor on the left. Well, what number minus 1 gives me 0? 1 does. 1 minus 1 will end up giving me 0, and then I can place a 1 here for that m. 1 minus 1 is 0. 0 times 1 equals 0. So I know that m equals 1 is also a solution. When I write my solutions, I will go ahead and I will write them in numerical order, so smallest number first. So in Schoology, you'll have blank 1, and in blank 1, you'll type 0, and then you'll have blank 2, and in blank 2, you will type 1. Let's go ahead and do a second example. Let's do example 3 in red. So here I have x squared minus 4x plus 3 equals 0. What multiplies to 3 and adds to negative 4? Well, let's take a moment and factor 3. I've got 1 and 3, negative 1 and negative 3, and that's it. So which of these sum to negative 4? That's positive 4. That's negative 4. Fantastic. I found my factors. This row are the row of my factors. So I can go ahead and factor and say x minus 1 times x minus 3 equals 0. So similar to what I did in the blue example, I'm going to take each of these chunks and figure out how I make it 0. So if I take the first chunk, x minus 1, and set it equal to 0, I can use inverse operations, and I get x equals 1. So let me test that. If I put 1 in, 1 minus 1 times 1 minus 3 equal to 0, I end up with 0 times negative 2, which is 0. So that one works. I know that one of my solutions is x equals 1. Then if I set the other factor equal to 0 and use inverse operations, I get x equals 3. If I try that, so 3 minus 1 times 3 minus 3, I end up with 2 times 0 equals 0, and that works. So I know that x equals 3 is also a factor. In Schoology, in blank 1, I'll put the smaller number because it's a numerical order, so there's 1. And then in blank 2, I will put in 3. So again, this is blank 1, 1, blank 2, 3, and I am done. There's a couple examples to get you started. You've got your problem set. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message on Schoology. I will be in a department meeting, but if I can answer your message, I will.